It's time to take off your clothes, enjoy clothes-free living, and join us for Naked, Nudists, and Naturists.
Welcome to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, the show that celebrates clothes-free living for all. I'm your host, Frank Stone.
And I'm your correspondent, Lisa Monroe, and I'll be reporting on all things within the naturist community. So it's time to get naked and join us.
And enjoy clothes-free living on Naked, Nudists, and Naturists. Well, greetings and welcome into Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 73 today. We've been waiting all week for you. 167 hours we've been diligently standing by until you got here, and now you are here. And we are going to enjoy this next hour of clothes-free living for all of the right reasons together. Everything is here, ready to go. The pool was serviced this morning. It's in top-notch condition, clean as a whistle. The hot tub is about 104 degrees, just about right for most people. We can always make it hotter or cool it off a little bit, depending on your personal needs. The grill is going full bore. We have fruits and vegetables off to the right, cold drinks off to the left, and hot drinks, as well as desserts inside, right by the door. So as you come in or as you go out, you cannot miss that entire table of desserts that you brought along. Feel free to partake. Otherwise, Jennifer, Lisa, and I will balloon about 200 pounds by the next time you see us, and that won't be good for anybody, including our health. But the sun is out. The temperature is nice and warm. We have a slight breeze. Just perfect weather and a perfect day for our time together. And I almost forgot to mention, yes, we do still have that cigar bar in the back left corner of the pool area. People requested that, so we're providing it for you. Help yourself, no charge, just trying to make this the best hour we can for our time together. A couple of notes up front before we dive into today's content. First of all, yes, every show is on Spotify, 6 a.m. Eastern Time, every single Saturday. We've not missed at all, 73 straight Saturdays in a row. But now we're putting every single episode on YouTube as well. We are all caught up. Before today's show, all 72 episodes are now on YouTube, and tomorrow, on Sunday, we post a new episode. So right now, Saturday morning, 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time on Spotify, you get the podcast. Sunday evening, you get the YouTube video of the same show. So we hope you enjoy that, and that's in answer to a lot of people who have told us, hey, why don't you put it on YouTube? I'd rather watch it there. And it's just easier for me to navigate. So, okay, so we've done that for you. And we also wanted to let you know, Lisa and I will discuss this in more detail during today's segment when she gets here. But our show, as you might have noticed, has grown somewhat wildly out of control but in control. We initially blocked out all of the time that we would need to put this show together for you every single week. Lots goes into putting a show together. It's much more than 1 hour of time to put a 1 hour show together. We knew that going in. We've been doing shows forever, so we blocked out the time. What we did not plan on and what we did not block out was time for the YouTube video, the YouTube preview, the 2 Twitter promos every single week. Massive responses needed every single week to listeners. We didn't plan on that. We didn't block out time for that. So what we've been doing is turning down paid work to make sure we get the free work done for you. Our accountant / CPA and attorney have been going ballistic for about a year and a half now. So we are not going anywhere. First of all, let me make that clear. We are not going anywhere. You will still get a free 1 hour show every single week, but we are going to look at avenues to bring in revenue. We will never completely recover what we give up when we turn down paid work, but it will soften the blow a little bit. So Lisa and I will get into that during today's segment. Well, on today's show, we have a clip for you from Tim CHIZMAR and JUSTNEKIDSARAH. They visited the Howe Caverns. Tim sent me a bunch of audio clips. We'll play one today. It's Tim and Sarah discussing their trip out east. We'll hear all about that. Of course, Lisa Monroe will be here, as I mentioned. And our featured interview will be with Tom RODGERS. You've heard his voice many times on this show. Tom, of course, is the husband of ANDEE RODGERS. She's big. She's the leader of Women in Nude Recreation. But when she talks to the women, Tom is off talking to the men. We'll have a full-length interview with Tom Rodgers today and part 2 on next week's show. Well, again, you're listening to Naked Nudists and Naturists, episode 73. We really thank you for being with us. And now let's get to Tim CHIZMAR and Just Naked Sarah.
Okay, I am tuckered out, and so is Just Sarah, or AKA Just Naked Sarah, AKA Just Naked Sarah. You have any other aliases we should be aware of?
No, not usually.
Okay. So I am here. We are laid on the bed, all freaking tuckered and tired, trying to figure out if we, mostly her, has the energy to go to a after party. There's a bonfire thing at the nudist resort here. But I'm old man bad back. Dude, we'll talk about it. We'll break down the day, but this has been a very eventful, a long day. And so I'm pretty tuckered out. I couldn't imagine, like, if I go over, I'm just gonna be like, hi, and then leave. Plus there's that one guy who's like, wants to be my new best friend, you know? So, and then there's another guy, but anyway, like, anyway, but for you, you're still trying to figure out if you want to go over there, right?
Yes, it's not that I want to or don't want to. I definitely want to go, but I'm not sure I have the energy to pick my body up and walk over there.
And yet we were clearly pointing out how young you are, that you knew none of the references of the comedian.
Yeah. Young or not, Sarah be tired.
It's interesting that you talk in the third person. I've certainly picked up on that. Okay, so let's break down the day. All right, so we have all our updates about the filming. We woke up. We interviewed people for Clothes Free. So we talked with the lady from AANR East.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember her name? Was it Sandy?
Yes.
Okay, Sandy. And then we talked to some other people who go here. We got some stuff. And then we managed to, and it wasn't easy, but we managed to catch the woman who owns this place, Carrie Ann. So we did catch the butterfly in a nut, and we were able to talk with her. I talked with her. You talked with her. That was great. And then about the time we finally finished all these interviews, our ride came to pick us up for the big reason that we flew out here, which is Naked in the Cave by Howe Caverns. And so we got there, and okay, so we got there. What's the first thing? So we paid a guy to take us there, and then...
So I didn't expect to be there for that many hours. When we got there, it was like 2:30. And they would not allow anyone into the building or into the places where they were hosting any of the events until the event started. They were very, very strict on when they were allowing people into what, and when. And so that was pretty interesting, but they also had a very set schedule. They had all the kinks seemed to be worked out of the whole situation, and they thought of everything. So it was very organized. It was very detailed. It was really well. But when we got there, we went straight over to start our little arts and craft project to make our plates.
And before we went in, I was rather pleased by the people. That the people who had gathered to go to this seemed to be really cool. There was a vibe. I go to a lot of Comic-Cons, and one of the things I love about Comic-Cons is I feel like at any time, anywhere, any place, you can lean against a wall, and the people to your right and to your left are like 99% cool. And that's how I felt about this event. Just like I could spit and hit somebody cool, and they don't want to be spit on. But my point is, everybody was pretty cool. And so like there was a rather large fella who was visiting here at the resort, and he had offered us a ride there for free because he was going there anyway. But we had another gentleman who I was paying $100 to take us, and he was on his way here, and so I didn't want to tell him to turn around. And so my point is that guy was super cool, and we got to hang out with him a little bit. Paul, you heard audio from a little bit ago, and then there was other people, and we got compliments. You and I were wearing matching undercover nudist shirts.
Yes.
And so we got multiple comments about that, which was fun. And we had that was the name of the gentleman who gave us the ride. We had pull his car over to the side by Howe Caverns, and we took some video and some pictures, and that was fun. So then when we got there, yes, we met some cool people and blah, blah, blah. That was really cool. Some people were recognizing me. Some people were recognizing you, which always makes us feel good. And then we went in, and before the painting, Is it painting? Is that what you call it?
Mm-hmm.
Because it was like they're gonna fire in a kiln and they're gonna mail it back to us, and it has like a Howe It's like a souvenir thing, and we got to paint it like arts and crafts kid style, which was fun, nice throwback. But we got these yellow bags, and the yellow bags had our robe in it and had bracelets for the various things. So there was all these upsells, the meal and all this other stuff, and so we got our bags and we were able to get naked. People were either in their robe or naked or in a various stage. And how was that experience for you?
At first I wasn't really sure because I'd been told by, other participants that you weren't allowed to be naked just in the cave. That you had to keep your robe on for certain things, that you didn't get your robe and things like that until you got to the cave.
Yeah, I thought that too.
Yes. And so there was a lot of different stories, a lot of different people telling you different things about how it works. But ultimately, we got to get naked as soon as we got let into the first event and remain that way for the remainder. And so I really liked that. Because it got everybody off to a really good start. There was a lot of people, women and men, that were very comfortable with just being completely nude, or partially nude, or having their robes or what have you. And I thought that was it was an amazing experience, because no matter if you were partially dressed or fully nude, you were accepted and everyone was talking to each other and making friends and connecting. And so it was really unique.
There was a guy at our table who was talking about his sci-fi thing, and he recognized me from something with noodles or some project, and that was cool. I wanted to say, it's been a long day. There was something I wanted to say about that. I forget right this second. But anyway, that was that. So anyway, so the walk from the painting area to where the meal was going to be, because that was the next thing on the agenda, right? Was the food? Is that right?
Yes.
Gosh, it seems much longer. But anyway, so we went over there, and then there was a naked dude in the parking lot, which I was like, can we just, because we had our robes at that point, but I was like, can we just be naked? Because nobody else was naked out of their robes. There was a guy wearing the robe when we showed up, and then everybody else was naked in the room with the painting, and then put their robes on. Then when they went outside, they kept their robes on. He was the only person I saw who was out of his robe. He was naked by his car. And so when we were all waiting to go in for the food, and there was some great conversations with cool people, there was a guy who was quoting lines from my movie and stuff. And just the people we were around were really fun. We were arguing about lightly whether or not that comedian was the guy from The Sopranos, and I kept going back and forth. But anyway, I motioned to the woman who organizes this, April, right? And so I got April to go around to the side. She was wearing a sunflower shirt, which is silly and wacky. She reminded me of the kind of woman who should be like a preschool teacher.
Yes, absolutely. She gives preschool teacher vibes.
So she comes out and we're talking, and just because of the phone conversations I'd had before, she seemed a little leery. And I found out why later on, but she seemed a little leery about nudists. And so, like, when I had been posting and hashtagging naked in the cave, I'm covering it for clothes free, blah, blah, I'm a nudist. And she called me. It was like, I just want to let you know this isn't a nudist event. And I was like, but we're all getting naked. And she's like, it's not a nudist event. And so, like, I had my cautionary gloves on when I was dealing with her, because I wanted her to like me, and I wanted her to like us, and I wanted her to be open to conversation and stuff. Because the last thing I wanted was to do a write-up, because I'm writing an article about this. Do an article and do audio and do video for Clothes Free, and not have the woman who's organizing it be a part of it. Like, I don't want it to be about it without actually involving her in it, even in a small way. So when I talked to her, I was like, I hope she likes me. And she was really smiley and nice and cool. And she recognized that, like, we were there to genuinely get her opinion and stuff. And, anyway, at that point, I asked her a couple of quick questions, and one of them was about the nudity, because I wanted to make sure we were following the rules. And I'm like, there's a naked guy in the parking lot, and, so what is the rule? Because I'm wearing a robe right now, but, if I don't have to, I'll take it off. And she told me that the rule was, once you have your robes, you can be naked up there. And she said, we know about that guy in the parking lot, and his problem is he's drinking. He's partying too fast, too early, and we're probably going to ask him to leave. And I was like, so I immediately opened my robe, and we set up Sarah and I was gonna do an interview with her later on when it worked out time wise, and she assured us of that, which was really fun and cool. So then we hustled back. I ran back to you guys all, and I had my robe open, and I sat down and I explained that situation. Like more people were getting naked and stuff, and then we went into the meal. Is there anything else you want to say as we led to the meal?
No, I think that just like sitting there and connecting with so many people and learning about a lot of different people and talking to them about naturism, nudism, was really unique, and it was a lot of fun to be able to connect with that many people and for them to be so open and honest and want to sit there and connect with random strangers is something unique about this community.
The terrific Tim CHIZMAR and JUSTNEKIDSARAH on their visit to Howe Caverns, audio that first appeared on Close Free International, a show we highly recommend, and we thank Tim and Sarah for all of their time on today's show. You are listening to Naked Nudists and Naturists, episode 73. A quick reminder, we are the official podcast of the American Association for Nude Recreation. Are you a member? If so, great. If not, get to AANR.com and make it happen today. How about that? I don't know about you, but I hear music. Could it be? It could be. Yes, it is. It's time for the one, the only, the terrifically over the top, our naturism correspondent, Lisa Monroe. And here she is, the one and only, the completely over the top, completely clothes free, and completely smiling, our naturism correspondent, Lisa Monroe. Good morning, Lisa. How are you today?
Good morning, Frank. I'm doing fantastic. How about you?
Not too bad at all. Just about have made it through all of the candy from Halloween a few weeks ago. A few pieces are lingering. You know, I'm trying to remain strong, but I think I want to give in soon. How about you?
Oh, there might be a piece or two left, but there's not much.
You know, just for kicks, we've never talked about this before, at least I don't think so. What was it like when you were a kid and you went trick-or-treating, you came home with a bunch of candy? Did your parents say, well, that's great, Lisa, you know, stuff your face to your heart's content and just have a good night? Or did they dive in? Did they divvy up the candy? Did they take some? How did that work for you?
You have to understand, both my mother and father were chocoholics, so I think my trick or treating was to get their stash. That was the only thing I can think of. But we equally shared it, and I really grew up with parents who were, we ate good, we ate healthy, we ate Southern, so there were a lot of, there was a lot of butter and fried stuff, but all delicious. But they still also maintain that moderation and eating well and eating healthy and and that kind of thing. But when it came to chocolate, just don't get between the chocolate bar and my dad. So we did share equally. It was a fun evening for all.
Okay. That's similar to what I had. My mom really didn't care at all. I don't know if she ever ate candy at all when I was a kid, but my dad was a different story. And he would often say, well, let's see what's in your bag. And I would
Yeah.
think, well, no, because I'm the one who just went out and busted tail for this. Of course, when I was younger, he was busting tail with me. They didn't just
Yes.
send me off as a 5-year-old
Yes.
Frank get candy. But as I got older, you know, I'd go around with some buddies, and it was a safe neighborhood, so it was fine. And I remember one night, as I got a little older, it's like, well, okay, I got to share the wealth here. It's, can't be selfish your whole life. And I said, go ahead, here's the bag, just take what you want. He looked at me like, well, who are you? I thought you look a lot like my son, but you're offering me candy. I said, yeah, it's fine. And so, of course, he didn't do this on purpose, but he took out this one candy bar. I forgot which one it was. I think it was an almond joy that I really enjoyed. And I was looking forward to that all night. Trick or treating,
Oh
somebody gave me an
no.
almond joy. I thought, man, I can't wait to get home to rip into this baby.
Mhm.
And he took it for himself. I said, oh, is there anything else you want instead of that? He goes, why? Was this your favorite? I said, well, yeah, I was going to have that. He goes, okay. So he put it back in the bag. And I said, no, go ahead. You don't want to give somebody stuff and then take it away and make them take a
Mhm.
second choice.
Exactly.
So I guess my parents brought me up correctly in that regard. So I don't remember if he had it or not or gave it back, but it's one of those stories you remember like, oh, shoot, I offered you anything you wanted and you took my favorite.
Oh no. Well, I have one quick little story to tell
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
I always went trick or treating with my next door neighbor. He was a year older than me, so we were like 6, 7-ish range.
Mhm.
And my mother and father would alternate who stayed home and who stayed to hand out candy, and went with us. Well, this little guy loved, and I mean loved, to run in front of me and get the doorbells. I guess it was a little boy thing even then.
Mhm.
So we were taking off and we stopped at this house and it was sort of like a dead heat. Then we're going to run. So I started running and he started running and he usually beat me, except that he fell into a rose bush
Oh no.
and I kept running.
Uh,
I didn't stop.
well, it's a good thing you didn't have a naturist neighborhood, or that could have been really bad.
I'm sure he might have been scarred for life and people will
Yeah,
know now, but
yeah, yeah.
I was so I just wanted to point that out as a sort of advice to not mess with Lisa.
Well, there you go. I learned that lesson long ago. So
I'm
or
kidding.
if I mess with you, I try to make it look like somebody else did it, and then I pay them
Uh-huh.
extra at the end of the
Oh,
week.
now I know. Okay, I got you. Anyway, he wasn't hurt. But all the
Oh,
mommies took
good.
care of him.
Okay. Well, very good. Let's get on to the business at hand here. We are a naturist show, and we've not talked about anything naked at all during our segment here. Do you remember a few weeks ago we had Cindy Tendick on? She's the one of the managing partners for the Shangri-La Ranch in Arizona. She's also the current president for AANR West. Remember the segment we did with her?
Yes, I do. It was an
Okay.
excellent segment, by the way.
Yeah, I thought she did very well. And as I do with every single guest, I always send them the links. Here's show whatever episode, whatever, which you were a part of. That way, they don't have to go fishing for it; they just get it right from us. And so I sent it to her, and I said, here's the link of episode whatever where you came on and whatever. Well, she wrote back, and I share that with you.
Did.
Your reaction was great. So I'll just let you go ahead if it's okay with you, if you want to read her letter that she wrote back to me, to us, but to me, because I sent the original letter. Just go right ahead.
I will be happy to do so because this is pretty cool.
Mhm.
Okay, it says, thank you, Frank. I just finished listening and ironically had a guest staying here with us walk in the door and asked if Cindy was here. So I looked up and jokingly said, that depends on who's asking, because if you have $1 million check for me, then it's a wonderful to meet you. But if you
Yeah.
have a complaint that she's not here, I love that. The gentleman got a chuckle and just said he had also heard the podcast and wanted to introduce himself. So I told him I was just finishing listening to it and thanked him for stopping in. Thank you for a wonderful representation of the ranch and myself.
Yeah, that was
That's just too cool.
yeah, that was a great letter. We enjoyed that. We got a kick out of that. And you can see that happening. I mean, the guy's probably sitting at the pool at the ranch in Arizona, and he's listening. Oh, here's Frank talking. Here's Lisa.
Mm,
Oh, Cindy. Wait, she's one of the managing partners at the place I'm at right now. So he wanders in the office. Hey, is Cindy here? I got to meet this lady. You were just on the radio, and she jokingly took care of it. See that tells me what Cindy is all about. Rather than say, "Yes, I'm here. How can I help you?" Kind of a dry. She's not like that.
no,
She could have said, "Nobody by name of Cindy works here." She didn't do that. She just made a joke out of it. Got $1 million check. I'm here.
I loved it. I absolutely loved her response.
Well, I wrote back to her and I said, "Hi, Cindy. Well, I didn't not think that we could make you even more famous, but apparently we did!" Exclamation point, obviously joking. And I said, "That's a truly terrific story. And with your permission, we'd like to share this story on the show. Is that okay?" And she wrote back and said, "Yes." And then I wrote, "You're quite welcome for the representation of you and your ranch, but you're also quite deserving of it because you work really hard with focused intent to be successful." And I always admire and respect people who work like she does, not just Cindy, but her mother, who's the current vice president for AANR and was the president of AANR West for a bit. And her dad's involved, siblings are involved. They bust their tails and they work really hard to be successful. They don't sit back in a rocking chair and say, "Okay, send me 50,000 guests for the weekend and just put the money over there, in a little bank we have outside the ranch." No, they work really hard. And at the end of the day, week, month, year, they're very successful because of their hard work. And I know you agree. Very impressive woman and very impressive people, right?
And very much so. I was quite impressed with her interview. I thought she's articulate, she's down to earth, she's engaging, just a good all around person, and you can feel that in that interview. And I also think that they are incredibly successful because they work hard at this. If I open up Twitter, they're half the time I see an ad for Shangri-La, or, there are a couple of other ones that do that. And it's just really wonderful to see that they know what they need to do to reach people. So that's what they're accomplishing, and it's
Yeah, yeah, very good to see that. And that was a short interview. We're going to have Cindy Tendick back on for a full length interview. And I believe it's going to air in February. Don't hold me to that. I don't have my chart in front of me. But you'll be hearing from her again, a full length interview. But we got a kick out of Cindy Tendick's letter. A guy walked in and said, "Hey, I just heard you on Frank and Lisa's show. Are you Cindy?"
yeah. Well, no, it's not only what the reaction that was there for her, but the reaction that was there for us, because we suddenly had two people half the entire continent away from us, and they're talking about the show. They've joined and met each other because they had that common connection. I think it's a wonderful thing, and it just was a great feeling to know that he was listening and went, "Oh wow, Cindy," and rushes to go find her. So that's great.
Yeah. And that's what we do for everybody. We've gotten similar comments, not as gregarious as Cindy's, but when people come in here as a guest, I like to say they leave in better shape than when they came in, even if they're in great shape to come in, because we do our best to make them look good. That's with intent here. We don't just go willy-nilly and say, "Well, I guess that worked out quite well." No, we intend for it to work out quite well. And so if you come on the show, whatever you're selling, Shangri-La Ranch, for example, AANR, a book, whatever you're doing out there, we're going to make you look good. And we don't do any gotcha questions or, "Hey, wait a minute, pal." Nothing
Yeah,
like that. We
yeah,
bring people in to help them and make them look good, and they can wander out and maybe get more involved with naturism or get more people in the case of Cindy's place, get them to go there and check it out when they get a chance, right?
absolutely. Gotcha questions serve no one, because we're here to promote naturism
Mhm.
and in turn to promote ANR membership for all the benefits people can have. But it's naturism that's at the core, and naturism is a fun, wonderful experience for us, and we need to say for people to see that and to enjoy it as well.
Yeah, yeah, very well said. I want to move on to something else now. You and I have been talking about this for several months. We have been putting out a show now for this is episode 73. So 73 straight weeks. That almost
Phew.
hurts to say it, but
Yeah.
73 straight Saturdays, 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. We have popped a show on Spotify, and then it spreads out all over podcast land, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, you name it. We're all over the place. But we've dropped 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time every single Saturday for now, counting today, our 73rd straight Saturday. We feel pretty good about that. When we started this show, way back, first one was July 1st of 23, but we didn't start on July 1st, 2023. That is when our first episode hit. We started planning back in, I think, April or May, and we got
Hmm.
serious about it. And we planned out the time. Can we do this? And of course, the initial answer was no, we don't have time in the schedule to do the kind of show we want to do. High quality, high content, well produced. We don't have the time. So when we came back to revisit it, it was, well, the time didn't get any less, but maybe we can find the time, shift some things around. That's when we brought Jennifer in. She has other work to do around here.
Hmm.
But could you help out a little bit here, mostly managing the social media? Just let me know if anybody writes in so I don't have to check every 10 seconds throughout the day. And we did some other changes we don't need to get into to make the time available. So now we had the time available to do a 1 hour show per week. And we've done that 73 weeks in a row. What we did not plan on was the weekly YouTube preview, and now the 2 Twitter previews and the full episodes on YouTube as well. And I won't get into the time that it takes to, like for a 1 minute promo, you and I have not discussed this. So I know you don't know the answer because I haven't shared it with you. But you would be amazed, and I believe every listener would be amazed at how long it takes to produce a 1 minute promo for Twitter. You go, oh, man, it must take a whole minute and a half, maybe up to 2 minutes, Frank. No, it takes a lot longer. You have to get the audio right, then you have to get the video right and add the tiles. And I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of how we put things together. It would put people to sleep, but a lot of details, takes a lot of time. And we went from having time to do everything to now we don't really have the kind of time we thought we had because we've added so much. And every month we meet in person with our CPA and our attorney, and they've been yelling at us since I think maybe July 2nd of last year
Mm-hmm.
when they said, whoa, wait a minute, what? You're doing this for free? Have you guys lost your minds? And of course, my answer is always, that's always a possibility, but no, I don't think so this time. And they've been jacking up the heat quite a bit. We're one of the few studios in the country that does what we do. We're small in terms of size, in terms of people, but we have the same equipment that, as I like to say, the big boys and girls have. You go into a Nashville studio, a Los Angeles studio, New York, wherever they have the big ones. They don't have anything that we don't have. They might have 10 of a certain item, whereas we only have one because, again, we're a small studio. But it also allows us to keep our costs down, and it allows us to get a quick turnover. Someone needs a podcast produced. We can do that by the next day, maybe even the same day. Try that with the big boys and girls. You're going to get on the schedule and it's going to get done whenever. And the list goes on and on. And so now, not only are we putting all of this extra time into the show every week with the Twitter promos and the YouTube preview and the YouTube full show, while maintaining the 1 hour full show every single week, what that's been doing is we've actually had to take some paid work and refuse it, or just say, sorry, we can't take this contract because we have this free show to produce. Which, if you've ever taken Business 101, that's not taught in there.
No.
Turn down paid work to do free work, and you'll be a huge success and financially well off. Not taught that way. And that's why our attorney and CPA have been yelling at us like, are you guys nuts? Have you lost your minds? You got to stop this. Well, we're not going to stop it. We enjoy what we're doing. The listenership is way up. As we said a few weeks ago, as Jesse Ventura, I think he was the governor of Minnesota, used to say, it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we get lots of comments and emails and Twitter direct messages every week. People enjoy the show. We're not going anywhere. And we're not going to charge for content either, much to the chagrin of our attorney and CPA, who probably aren't going to be too happy when they hear this. I'm telling our listeners before I'm telling them. Maybe they're hearing it today. I'll probably get a call after the show.
But, I would say so.
Yeah, but we are developing ways to generate income for the show. We won't ever replace what we're losing for doing this show, but we can kind of soften the blow a little bit. And Lisa, I know you had some ideas in terms of merchandise, and what are you kind of throwing out there?
I think it's an excellent idea because, people love to have their favorite team shirts. They love to have their favorite, television show shirts. I happen to have one for a sci-fi show. I think that it's a way of getting closer to the show, and people seem to enjoy it. They like to have their coffee mug. They like to have, an item, a towel, something. So I think that, we've been kind of looking at just a few items. They're not going to blow the world around with 2,000 items, but some things I hope that maybe our listeners would enjoy having.
Yeah, and we're looking at developing a Patreon page. Depending on what level you sign up for, you'll get something in return. And we're still developing that. I don't want to announce that today, but you'll get something in return, maybe several somethings in return. And the higher up you go, the more you get in return, including some special content that we're going to develop only for people who attain a certain level in terms of supporting the show. And also, as people go up the chain in terms of supporting the show, offering a call with us. You can actually talk to Frank and Lisa once every so often. But we're developing that, as you said, trinkets and some gifts to give back just to support the show, because now you know why. We've been turning down paid contracts to continue to do the free show while running a business. I mean, it does sound kind of loony when you explain it to somebody that way.
Yeah.
And we've been beaten up enough by the attorney and our CPA. So we're making some changes. We're not going away. We're not going to stop what we're doing. Everybody will still get the free 1 hour show a week. If you never give a penny, you're still going to get exactly what you've gotten 73 Saturdays in a row. But if you can find it to help support, it'll defray some of the costs that we've been basically throwing away to keep doing the show. I'll turn it back to you, Lisa. Any last thought?
I was going to say, but the fact is that the choice is the listeners to whether or not they want to participate. If they do, that's wonderful and we appreciate it. If they have reason not to or don't want to, then that's okay too. The show is always going to be here for them, and we're always going to be appreciative of them listening to us. So it's a good thing, I think.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with this, by the way. In any business, the naturism business, nudist resorts, for example, they charge a fee to get in. If they could give it to you free, they would. If we could continue doing this totally for free, we would. In some cases, we are because you don't have to pay. Certain places you go to buy a book at the bookstore, you want the book, you have to pay. There's no two ways about it. Here, you want the show for free, we'll give it to you for free. But we're going to be asking you, probably starting next week, we'll have more details, how to sign up, how to support the show. And as I heard this one woman talking years ago, it was in a church service. She said, now is the time for your offering. We'll be sending the plate around. If you're going to write a check, here's how you spell my name, and you spell million, Million.
I like
That
that.
would probably defray the cost, I think, if we got a check like that. But be that as it may,
Oh, when that guy that came in to see Cindy, did he have $1 million check by any chance?
that's a good question. I have to get a hold of Cindy. We
Yeah.
should be entitled to some of
Yeah,
that.
I think so. Finder's fee.
Based upon her appearance on this show is why she got the check. Cindy, you owe us some dough.
Yes, you do. Too much fun.
That's right. All right, Lisa Monroe. With that, we are going to head for the hills. Have a great close-free week, and we'll see you next time.
You too, Frank. Take care. Bye.
Bye. The terrific Lisa Monroe pops in every week for her segments. We appreciate all of the work that she does. You are listening to Naked Nudists and Naturists, episode 73 today. Now let's get to part one of my interview with the very terrific Tom Rodgers. We are headed up and over to Oregon this morning to meet Tom Rodgers. You've heard his voice before. ANDEE RODGERS has been on multiple times giving reports. Well, part of those reports, Tom, her husband, weighed in and gave his report. ANDEE would meet with the women of various clubs and resorts, and Tom would meet with the men, updating, finding out what's going on, anything they need from either himself or from ANDEE or from the American Association for Nude Recreation. So let's bring him to the show this morning from Oregon, Tom Rodgers. Good morning, Tom. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day here starting out, and it's just great to be here.
Great to be alive and great to be clothes-free and enjoying terrific weather, right?
That is correct.
All right. Now, we heard ANDEE's background story. She's been on the show twice as a guest and multiple times, as you know, because you were right there with her for the reports. Basically, you were a nudist naturist, and after you got together, she said, that's great for you, but no way in heck for me. But because she loves you so much, she made a reservation at a resort. You went there and she said, okay, Tom, have at it. Be as naked as you want all week. My clothes are staying on. Well, it didn't take long before she realized the beauty and the joy of naturism. Her clothes came off. They've not gone back on since. So we know her story. What is your story? When did you discover naturism, nudism, clothes-free living? Is that from birth on, or did something trigger it along the way?
Well, I noticed in all my family photos growing up as a kid, I was usually just wearing shorts because I had to cover myself up some, and it was really odd. Like I said, going through those pictures, I've always had that in heart. And in my previous marriage, I had 3 daughters, and when they all left the house, I was just enjoying the fact that I could be nude in our house at that time. My ex-wife didn't think the same thing, so she told me I couldn't be nude in the house, so I went in the bedroom and put a belt on.
That'll teach her a lesson. How'd that go over? I'm guessing not very well.
Well, but no, I've always, desired the fact of just being, I call it natural. It just feels more natural to not have the clothes on. And when we discovered our home place here in Oregon, when we first drove in, it just felt like home.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's where we landed, and we have a cabin here and we really enjoy it. So that's where we're at.
Yeah. Now, you wanted to be nude after your kids moved out, but when did you first want to be nude? It wasn't when they moved out. You probably had that feeling before, I'm guessing.
I've had that feeling, like I said, basically my whole life.
Okay.
I had to wear shorts or pants, but
Yeah.
I wanted to be free.
Yeah. That's one of the things we're pushing here more and more because we kind of stumbled upon it by accident is shirtless men. We don't have a lot of that going on anymore in society. When I grew up as a kid, I've said this on the show before, every man in the neighborhood was shirtless when he was outside cutting grass or even just walking up and down the street. Boys, same thing. Today, I don't see it anyway. A lot of people don't see it. A man goes outside before he does, a shirt goes on. Makes no sense, especially when it's nice weather or hot weather, and especially if you're working outside. I'm guessing it sounds like you adopted that fairly early on in life, even as a kid, right?
Oh, yes. Yes, I did. In fact,
Yeah.
we were just at a concert 3 days ago, just
Mm.
a local venue here with probably, I don't know, 300 people.
Mm.
And I was the only shirtless man.
Yeah, see, there we go. It makes no sense. Did anybody give you any grief for that or give you a funny look?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Oh, good.
No,
Okay.
no, not at all. I just feel more natural that way. So that's the way I am.
And we could talk about it almost ad nauseum as to how we got here. Several years ago, every man was shirtless, and now we're not. Very few are. As you mentioned, you're the only guy in the crowd with no shirt on. Any idea how we got here? Just people starting to cover up more and more body conscious image things going on, or what do you think?
I think you're right. I think it has a lot to do with the younger society,
Mm.
or the younger people. The first time Andy's granddaughters saw me without a shirt on, they immediately grabbed Andy's leg. They were just 5, 6 years old, and
Mm.
they said, "Why is Tom naked?" And all I had was my shirt off,
Right, right.
and that kind of rang a bell in my head, like, why would they think that? And it was obvious that their dad does not ever take his shirt off, and I just found it odd. But now they've grown to accept that, and they anytime I'm there, I'm pretty much shirtless.
Yeah, I mean it just makes perfect sense. Women have had their own issues with that being top free. That also makes no sense, by the way. But if you're going to make the argument that women have breasts, we have to keep them covered up. People make that argument. You and I certainly don't. Andy certainly doesn't. But if they're going to make that argument for women, there really is no such equal argument for men. We just ended up being this way, I guess. And even I fell into that trap. I discovered it when somebody pointed it out through an email to our show. Even I have gotten in the habit without realizing it. So I did it subconsciously. I got to run to the mailbox. I better grab a shirt, throw it on without even thinking about it. And then it hit me. What in the name of heaven am I doing? There's nothing wrong, illegal, or untoward about a man walking to his mailbox shirt free. You're joining the revolution here.
I guess I am. I guess
Yeah.
we're that's it feels right, and I'm getting to where I don't carry t-shirts anymore. I have a button up, which is actually a snap, so I can just grab it and pop it open, and but
Yeah.
Andy does remind me when we go into a store,
Yeah.
you got to button your shirt up, and so
Yeah.
that's just part of it. But no,
Yeah.
it doesn't bother me at all what other people think about how I am. So it it's just the way I am.
Yeah, and I suppose the argument could be made when there's food around, like going into a grocery store or at a restaurant. It probably ought to be covered up. I don't even know if there's a scientific reason for that, but there are people who will say there is, and they'll make an argument for it. But how often have you
Yeah.
seen the sign on a store or a restaurant?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
No
Yeah.
shirt, no shirt, no shoes, no service. Like, well, why are
Yeah.
you putting in a bare chest with bare feet? But they do.
Yeah. They do. And I don't disrespect that, and I don't
Right.
push the issue. I just follow what's out there. Around here it's the no shirt, no shoes, no service. Around here it's if you are wearing a shirt, if you are wearing shoes, then no service.
I like the guy who said he put on a t-shirt and a pair of shoes, and that was it. And he walked in. It was a joke. He didn't really do this, but they threw him on. He goes, "Hey, I followed the rules. You said I had to have a shirt on and shoes on, and I do. He didn't say I had to have pants on."
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Don't give me any ideas.
oh, I think I just did, but don't do that because we don't want to have to bail you out for the weekend, and
There
Andy
you
might
go.
get a little ticked off too. So,
There you go.
we'll follow the norms when we have to, but when we don't have to, like walking to our mailbox, for heaven's sakes, shirt free, shirtless men for
Yeah.
all, or shirtless living for all the right reasons, whatever we want to
Yeah.
call it.
I pretty much drive the car shirtless.
Yeah.
The motorhome on our trip, I was probably shirtless at least half the time. Of course, it
Yeah.
was earlier in the year, so it was cool, but still, yeah, I love driving the motorhome shirtless with my Elvis wig on. I get all kinds of looks when I do that.
Do you flash them any karate signs like Elvis used to do at the end of his concerts or end of a song?
Yeah, yeah,
They think it's
it
really
was
you.
great.
Oh my gosh, it's really him. It's good that you have a sense of humor about it, but yeah, it makes no sense for men to have their shirts on.
It really doesn't. And
Yeah.
even on Facebook and all those, Andy has to put little asterisks and things on the photos that we use for AANR just to cover the nipples. Well, men have nipples. Why do we not have to cover them on men?
I wish I knew the answer. I'm guessing, I've said this on the show also, a group of men got together years ago and made a law, and it just carried through. And maybe their wives are the ones who said, okay, you're the king, you're the prince, make this law because I don't want all the women walking the street with no tops on, because then you, my husband, the king, will go after that woman instead of me. It's total speculation on my part, but who knows?
Yeah,
It happened hundreds, if not thousands, well, not thousands of years ago, but certainly multiple hundreds of years ago, because there
yeah.
was a time everybody walked around top free and everybody walked around nude, by the way, in the early days. And
Oh
now
yeah.
we've come here. Everybody's clothed all the time, except people who get it and realize clothes for a living for all the right reasons makes more sense. And walking to your mailbox as a guy with no shirt makes sense, right?
I guess we
All
tell
right.
everybody we're old school, and they say, "What do you mean?" Well, Adam and Eve didn't have clothes, so why do
Yeah.
we? So
You mentioned t-shirts. I don't think, and just thinking out loud here as we're talking, I don't think my dad owned any t-shirts because when he was home, he never had a shirt on, and he
yeah,
wore a dress shirt, tie, suit to work every day. When he came home, that came off, and a replacement shirt didn't go on. It's just, I'm here, I'm the dad, I'm the husband, it's my home, and I have no shirt on. That's how I grew up, so that's totally normal.
yeah,
I'm guessing
yeah.
kids today don't experience that. Their dads come home and whatever they wore coming in, before long they're wearing something else, but it is something else. It's not shirt free, you think?
Correct. My dad was. I I remember seeing him shirtless probably a couple times, but
Oh,
no, he was pretty much clothed. But
okay.
I brought this on myself somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, well, nothing wrong with that. So, what's been going on now with this women in nude recreation, the WOW campaign? You've been assisting Andy. Obviously, you travel together and stay together and present together. While she's presenting to the women, you're all presenting to the men. We've had her story about how that's gone with the women. But what's going on with the men when you meet with the men at these various resorts? What kind of things are they bringing up to you?
A lot of the clubs that we visited, I think it was a total of 16 clubs that we stopped at. We had decided that I needed to have a spot for the men to land because what Andy has learned with her winter room on the meet and greet with through Anner
Hmm.
is if a man pops into their room, the women quit talking.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And so we thought, well, we got to have something, so that the men will not be in the room with her. And so I figured we would offer beer and pretzels for the men.
There you go.
And that's what it started out to be. But to be honest with you, there was quite a few stops we had where the men our meeting actually went longer than the women's.
Yeah.
I mean, men have questions,
Oh, yeah.
and probably the number one question is, of course, across the whole nude society is, how do you get younger people in, and why do we not see a lot of single women coming to the clubs? There's
Mm.
plenty of single men at clubs. So we kind of went over, well, when a single woman does come to your club, what do you do? How do you respond to her? Do
Mhm.
you like, oh boy, there's a single woman at our club, let's go greet her, and
Yeah.
and you know, and you scare her off? is basically what I told him. I said, it's fine to say, hi, my name is so and so. I'll be right over there. If you have any questions, come talk to me,
Right.
and leave them alone. So that was an eye opener for a couple of the clubs, because it sounded like if a new person showed up, they just pretty much smothered them. That was a good understanding, and that brought some light to some of the guys. Then probably one of the other issues we talked a lot about was ANR, which is American Association for Nude Recreation. A
Right.
lot of the clubs we went to are what they call 100% clubs, which you can't join the club unless you join ANR, because of the value of ANR, what it brings to your club. A family friendly place, and we need the support for ANR to fight for our rights on
Yeah.
all the pieces of legislation that hit the the government forums. So we have a team that fights for that for us. The understanding was, well, I'm an ANR member, but I don't know why. I just told I had to join ANR, and so I wasn't prepared for it, but I wound up being the ANR representative on our trip.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of nice to get the word out, and a lot of the clubs were like, what does ANR do for us? And so I got to explain some of those details, and they pretty much understood that, and that was great. So I got that point across.
Yeah, it's very important for them to know that. But in addition, hopefully they'll tell two people or three people. And now the words you spread on those days have gone far and wide. Like everybody who's been asking the question, hey, Bill, you went to see Tom Rogers. What did he say about Anna? And they can say, well, he said this, that, and the other thing. And it makes perfect sense. And everybody gets an understanding, which is how the word spreads, right?
Right. It
Yeah.
just planting the seed, and hopefully they've adopted some of the ideas that we talked about in the meetings. And I think it was a progression of men understanding what their part is, and supporting ANR and supporting their clubs.
Yeah. A couple of things you mentioned I want to hit on a little bit. You said when a single woman shows up, and I know the score, I've been around long enough. There are a lot of men out there. Oh boy, this is my lucky day. She's going to go home with me. We're going to be married by noon tomorrow. So I'll immediately, before she sits down, I'll go meet her and say, hey, you want a lemonade? You want a hamburger? What? Most women don't want that. They don't go to naturist clubs to have men hit on them. They're going there to enjoy the breeze on their skin, the sunshine, get an all over tan, whatever they want to do. But if they want that, they'll just go to a nightclub on a Friday night or a Saturday night. They don't go to a nudist club for that, right?
That is correct. And
Yeah.
and when we have young single men, or I'm not even young, when we have
Right.
single men come to our clubs, we say this is not a hookup place. We
Yeah.
we get that established right off the bat.
Perfect.
This is a place where you can be nude and be free, and nobody's going to bother you. We just don't want the idea of hookups or a date. Or one guy came to our club and says, yeah, well, I'm looking for a girlfriend, that will enjoy this lifestyle. He said, well,
Oh
first
boy.
of all, that's
Yeah.
not going to happen.
No.
That's not what we're about. So we talked about that at the clubs also. So
Yeah. Well, it's also a segment of men, and you and I might be guilty of this at times. The whole chivalry thing. You see a woman in distress or a woman upset. It's our natural intention as men. Hi, can I help you? My name is Tom. My name is Frank. Can I be of assistance? But some men overstep that. Like, oh, there's
oh,
a single
definitely.
woman. Yeah, there's a single woman. She must need my help. And your message is,
Yeah.
hey, guys, just leave her alone. Let her find her own footing. And if she wants to talk to you, she'll come over. Otherwise, just, wave, smile, and move along, right?
Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
And one other thing, that I suggested to him was, if you see other women in your club, have them have conversations with her first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just so she doesn't feel pressured by oh, I'm naked now, and now I got these men going to want to come and bother me.
Yeah.
So we say, if she looks like she needs something, get her in contact with a couple of your women there, and then let them have the conversations first, and then she'll probably come back.
Yeah, that's usually how it works. And how many? You said 16 clubs, and did you get a chance to meet with men at each of the 16 clubs, or was there some where you did not?
There was one I did not. There was
Okay.
one just outside of Los Angeles, and it's called the Dragonfly Ladies, and it is a ladies' club. So, so no, I did not speak with any men there, but that was fine. Andy had a great time there. It was a lovely setting at a one of the ladies' houses, and I pretty much talked with men at all the other clubs.
Yeah, if they were available, Tom was available,
Yes,
and we had a good day. Yeah.
yeah, and some of them we had like 30 guys there, so it was awesome.
I'm really glad that you did that, and I'll tell you why. And to me, this isn't talked about enough. We hear a lot about women and body image issues and this, that, and the other thing, all of which is true. I'm not denigrating any of that. I know it's true. I know a lot of women who basically the story is the same. Oh, I can't get naked because this is too big, this is too small. People will laugh at me. I've had that discussion a million times. So women have forums now to express this, either with each other or
Yes,
through various websites. Too often, men don't. And let me just give you an example before we get back to the naturism thing. When my first kid was going to be born, I didn't know anything about childbirth. I was the youngest in my extended family, so there was no babies born after I was born. So I didn't know anything about it. And think, well, this is going to be crazy. I don't know a darn thing. Whereas women tend to flock to other women. Okay, you're going to go through this, the first 3 months, this, the second trimester, this, birthing will be like this, and so on and so forth. They get all kinds of feedback and advice and things to look for, while the dads, the men, are kind of left out in the cold. Thankfully, the hospital put classes together for the men. If you're an expectant dad, we have a series of meetings just for dads. And we went in and met with a male nurse, kind of like, you as a guy meeting with guys at the clubs, and learned a lot about the birthing process. And so it's important to do whatever we're doing for women, as Andy is. She's doing unbelievably great work with the women, but you're doing unbelievably great work with the men who are sometimes left out, at least in my view. What do you think?
well, I did have those conversations after our meetings. I had a couple guys come up and say,
Yeah.
I had no idea that, you know, Anner has this, I'm going to say, responsibility
Mhm.
to our lifestyle. And they said, I need to get more involved.
Mhm.
And they also said, you know what? Us as men, we need to get together more often.
Yeah.
Just men. Some men are overpowered by their wives and vice versa. And it's just, you could tell some of the guys that were talking that they don't get a chance to talk like they were in these meetings.
Yeah.
But once they got in there with the other men, you could tell that they were being more open than probably what they are normally in a group of husbands and wives or couples. So it was eye-opening to them, and a couple of the bigger clubs said, you know what, we need to get together more often, and that was really great, and to hear them say that. But it was just working out really good.
Yeah. Well, not only the words of wisdom and advice that you passed along, but giving them the forum to express. The very terrific Tom Rodgers, while Andee Rodgers, his wife, is off meeting with the women for women and nude recreation. Tom is always off meeting with the men, discussing naturism, nudism, clothes for a living, and of course, the American Association for Nude Recreation. And on next week's show, which will be episode 74, we will have part 2 of my interview with Tom Rodgers. Well, you've been listening to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 73 today. We give you a brand new show every Saturday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. Continue to join us. Check us out on our website, nakednudistandnaturist.com, Spotify, Google, Amazon/Audible, Apple Podcasts, and also on Twitter. You can write us anywhere, anytime, any place. And we thank you for being with us today. Plan to join us for every single one of our shows here and have your clothes off when you're listening. We have our clothes off when we're broadcasting, enjoying the naturist life.
We celebrate clothes-free living for all.
Remember to enjoy being naked and join us again for Naked Nudists and Naturists.
We drop a brand new show every Saturday morning, so come back and join us. Have your clothes off when you do for Naked Nudists and Naturists. Have a great clothes-free day.